Hey everybody, how are you? I'm Afefe with Touch by Tarot. And listen, just so you know, I need your feedback, please. I am using my microphone a little closer. I had a couple of people mention my audio on tapings, and I've had the microphone farther away from me. So let me know how you feel about this sound quality. Working it out, want to make sure I do the best job for you all. All right, so welcome. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I am a tarot reader, an oracle reader. I read intuitively and I channel messages from our spirit guides. I read for the collective, but I do pick a cards, which is what I'm going to do today. And this will be for the week ahead. But you all, as I started meditating and doing the cards, which I have not seen if you don't know my process, instead of you sitting there watching me flip cards for 10 minutes, I get everything on the table cleansed and ready, but I have not seen any of this. I will see it as I reveal it to you during the taping. So that's the process. I was thinking about the week ahead, what you can expect for the week ahead. And Spirit came through strongly and was like, no, this is a message from your future self. It is about what happens in the week ahead, but it's like the week ahead and beyond. All right. This is something that your future self, the guides want to let you know about your future self. That's beyond. It's starting now, but it really feels like it's got some long lasting, evolution to it. All right. So I'm going to show you the stones that I picked and let's go in. Let's make it happen. All right. For pile number one, I've got 3 piles in front of me. For pile number one, I pulled out my big stones today, you all, because it feels like a big message. Like, let's get ready. So for pile number one, it will be for those of you who are drawn to this really deep, rich citrine. That's a citrine stone. All right. Pile number one, citrine. For pile number two, it's going to be another, this thing is heavy too. Big old chunk of black tourmaline. Pile number two. If you're drawn to that black tourmaline. And I got to put this down. It is heavy, I'm telling you. And for pile number three, beautiful cluster piece of clear crystal quartz. All right, if that draws you. The crystal quartz. That'll be pile number three. Some of you may be drawn very often in my readings. People are drawn to more than one pile. Listen to your intuition. Pay attention to what you're drawn to, because if you're drawn there, there's some message there for you. And very often in pick a card readings, the messages do overlap. You'll see, some themes and energies that come through. So that said, let's go in, you guys. Let me put pile number three over here and put pile number two over there. And let's go in for pile number one, those of you who were really drawn to the citrine stone. Let's see. A message from your future self and what you can expect starting now, but it's longer lasting. I cannot wait. All right, you all, we have the Two of Wands. We have the Princess of Wands. Ooh, look at you coming with the fire. We have the Empress. We have Death. Wow, you are pile number one. Your future self is ready to do something new, and it's going to be really good. It's going to be rich, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm getting excited. We've got your root chakra. Oh, it's going to last. It's going to be what you stand on and what you live in. We've got imprisoned. That's a challenge. All right, we'll get to that. That's something, this is freeing you up. And that's why the death card came. All right, let me go. We've got loyalty. Mithras is a god that comes up, a deity who comes up and represents loyalty. I may have to look that up for you. I'm not familiar with him. I will find that book. There it is. Let me get that book out and ready, because I'm going to look that up for you all. Mithras. That is from, I'm using the Dark, Deep, Dangerous Oracle. And I use that even though it looks a little scary and the title is a little scary. But what this deck is really good for, you all, is when it comes to blocks and challenges and obstacles and shadowy energy that very often we always want to get to the good stuff. But sometimes we got to move through something that may be holding us back, maybe even unconsciously or subconsciously. We don't realize. That's what drew me to that deck. And I've been really successful with that with people. So we're going to look that up. We've got boundaries rounding us out here. And then we've got the tailor, attention to detail and taking pride in what you do. And the botanist, parenthood and a legacy. Pile number one, your future self is letting go of some patterns that got put in place. For some of you, it goes back to childhood, and for others of you, it could be even in adulthood. It could even be in your more recent years, but it is a pattern that got put into place based on beliefs that you've had about yourself that were embedded in you from by your parents, or it is how you feel about yourself in being a parent. Maybe some of you chose to forego that, or other circumstances happened where you have not been a parent or choose not to be a parent. But the idea of what that means for you in your role as a person and how you've lived your life, something about that weighs on you. We're going to go in on that. And that's the imprisonment. Okay, I understand now. For some of you, what your future self is saying is let go, really. Let go of the version of yourself that you don't even like, you've held on to, perhaps because there have been repeating circumstances, events that have transpired in your life where you've noticed the patterns. And sometimes we can begin to say, oh, that always happens to me, or that, yeah, story of my life, that sort of energy. And your future self is saying, guess what? There's something in you that is already rebelling against that and saying enough of that. And that is why this imprisoned, I feel these two cards connecting very deeply. The imprisoned card that came with death, because death, as we know, is an ending to one way of being so that a rebirth can occur. And for those of you, this citrine is speaking to this new life. It is speaking to new beginnings, it even says on this card. But it is something where it's drastic. You know what I mean? This isn't like you taking up a new hobby, your future self saying, oh, we're gonna take up a new hobby, we're gonna study something new, we're gonna take a workshop, travel someplace different. All of that's great. But this is really more about something fundamental that changes, that makes you feel a shift in the very nature of your being, your character, and what you are made of. And it is about you determining what the legacy of your life is, as opposed to having it determined for you, or comparing yourself to what you have thought traditionally are the mile markers of a successful life, a happy life, a peaceful life, etc. You're changing the game. Your future self is literally changing the game. And these boundaries are coming. Gorgeous card, by the way. Let me hold that up for you. Isn't that gorgeous? These boundaries are coming because part of this shift, this rebirth from that death card is it's like you are becoming more fearless in your ability to stand up for yourself. In the past, and this could go back to that parenthood that I'm seeing, the conditioning, that word is coming to me, the conditioning that you received around when it was okay to speak up for yourself and when you just had to go along to get along, when it was like, it's not worth the argument, or it's not worth the pushback that I might get. So there was a part of you that perhaps learned to just let it be, right? And now this new birth, this rebirth that you're going through, your future self, is like, guess what? Not only will you have boundaries, but you will not have a problem expressing them. And it's not expressing them in an aggressive or hostile step back, these are my boundaries kind of way. But it's about, this is clearly who I am. This is what I value. This is what I am worth. This is what I stand for. These are my goals. This is what I enjoy. Showing up for yourself in your life, and thereby creating healthy boundaries. I love that. And also, I notice on this card it says your inner and outer and your energetic boundaries. This is also about becoming more particular, you all, about who really you confide in, who you associate with, who you really consider, your tribe, your people, your circle, your support group. And if you have found yourself, for many people still in the aftermath of the pandemic, are still going through a different degree of isolation, or feeling, life has really shifted dramatically. So part of this for you all is maybe even stretching out your boundaries a little farther, right? Instead of just feeling more, closed off, your own little universe, which we all had to create to some extent during the pandemic. But for some of you, this is going to be this rebirth is a period of increasing your boundaries and your energetic boundaries so that you can allow more people in. But they got to be the right people. They got to be the people that make sense to your soul. Your future self is not tolerating anything less than what is supportive to you, what makes you feel good. By the way, this does come in earth. You could kind of guess that by all of that green around her, but I'm looking at that earth symbol above. So this is literally how the boundaries of your day-to-day existence, your life energetically. It is about your home, your community, and beyond that, the people that you feel really connected with or desire to increase your boundaries to be more inclusive of those whose values are more aligned with the values that you are adopting. No more silence, no more feeling. This imprisonment it's a really interesting contrast to boundaries when you think about it, because imprisonment has to do with that sense of not having been able to fully express yourself, or perhaps being feeling overwhelmed by whatever was going on with you, and feeling like you had to see it through. For some of you, I'm going to call it like I see it. I feel like it could have even been a marriage situation or a relationship situation where for a while, maybe financial reasons, maybe because of children, maybe jobs, who knows? There are all sorts of reasons where we feel stuck in a situation that we're not happy in. And there's this part of you that either you have already come out of that, or you are in the process of coming out of that. And there's that rebirth that's happening for you, because you will never be in this stage in that same way again. That is about to be, or has become, history for you. And that again is what makes those boundaries more positive and strengthening for you, because you know who you are and you will not tolerate being restricted or feeling powerless. That's really what that is. It's feeling powerless. And some of you may have been, for all the right reasons, I'm feeling a really loving and loyal and gentle energy from many of you, but that can work for you, and sometimes it works against you. And I think for some of you who chose this pile, it worked against you, and you knew it was working against you, but it was like there was a larger purpose. Again, I feel like for some of you, it may have been the kids, a job, the home, other reasons. There was a larger purpose, and so you tolerated it. But that part of your life is absolutely like not happening. Shifting on what you are becoming. So those are the things that are moving out of the way, and why they've had to move out of the way. Your boundaries, and you claiming who you are and your values, because your root chakra, what you stand on, your foundation, and what makes you feel safe and secure. That's part of your boundary setting as well, pile number one. But this root chakra is speaking up now, because your future self is saying you are safe. You are stable. And if you have gone through, either in the recent past or far past, maybe some of you were raised in environments that didn't feel safe or stable, then that root chakra is part of what in your body has held on to that notion, or that sense of, I'm okay now, but will I be later? Can I trust it? Is this going to last? That's really, a lot of what the root chakra does. Think about the roots of a tree, and then perhaps how those roots hold up in the midst of a storm or a hurricane, right? It's the root chakra is really what keeps us feeling grounded and planted, and knowing that come what may, I will be okay. Your future self is saying you will be okay. And talk about all this rootedness. Remember, you got that Empress, and the Empress lacks for nothing. The Empress is the Divine Mother. For some of you, going back to that parental situation, Motherhood has been difficult for you. Either your role as a mother, you having been mothered, some of you smothered, some of you neglected. But that role of motherhood influenced, and even for men, if you chose this for men, same difference, it, or same difference, I love that. But the same energy, like you still, the role of who nurtured, who grew, who helped you grow, the rootedness, what kept you feeling safe, secure, what you knew you could always count on. We talk about a mother's love. We talk about Gaia, the earth as mother, as feminine, because all of the resources, earth, air, fire, water, rivers, oceans, all of these things, the trees, all of these things support our life. They help support our life on the planet. That is what mothering energy does. And for some of you, pile number one, your whole concept of that has been challenged. And your future self is saying, not only is your concept of that changing, but you are becoming that. You are becoming that. You are walking in this rebirth for you is walking in the power of your ability to generate what you need. Not looking to someone else for it, not looking just to circumstances to come your way. We do our manifestation rituals, our prayers, etc. And yes, that opens the door. Maybe we're in the right place at the right time. We meet the right people. These things happen for us because of our manifestation work. But fundamentally, that's the work that you are doing to impact the world around you and bring things to you, attract things to you. This is about who you are, your future self. This is about who you are becoming. You are, and for men, this is you are becoming more in tune with that part of yourself that is nurturing. It's okay to be supportive. It's okay to relish the divine feminine. It's okay to welcome the presence of women around you or feminine identified people around you who bring a sense of abundance and growth and stability and comfort. We have the Princess of Wands who comes with the Two of Wands, because this rebirth that you're going through, pile number one, is going to lead you someplace different. Some of you are going to move, physically move. Some of you, it's about going back to that boundaries. You are focused on what next, who next. And some of you are about to meet people who inspire you. You're about to go through a reawakening. Almost, if you are more mature in years, you're about to go through a stage of life where you feel young again. You feel empowered again. This discovering of your future self is going to give you some sort of boost, like almost take 10 years off your life. Like literally, that's how you're going to feel. And there's this energy, feeling energized, because that rebirth is not so much about losing anything, but making space for this newness that's coming through. And the tailor, something made me save this card to the last. Spirit is saying, your future self is saying, the tailor, notice those scissors, right? Literally, a tailor. You are in charge. Remember a moment ago we said, even in your manifestation rituals, a lot of that has to do with impacting or influencing and working with the forces around us, our spirit guides, God, however you identify. But it's about ancestors, angels. It's about working with forces beyond us to help influence and redirect us and open doors for us in this life. But you are the tailor. Your future self is saying, don't forget, you're the one with those scissors in your hand. You cut the cloth. You establish the map. You decide, with going back to that Two of Wands, very often the Two of Wands is seen with a world in their hands because it's a focus going forward. You design that. You are literally designing your future. And your future self is saying attention to detail, right? And pride. Those are the words under here. It's called the tailor. Attention to detail and pride. Because that is what You are taking pride. That's what makes you feel young again. That Princess of Wands. It makes you feel proud to know that you've allowed yourself to listen to your own voice and to speak your own truth and to establish your own boundaries. Your future self is like, yes, 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 yes. And by doing that, by taking back your power, ultimately is a lot of what you're doing. Pile number one is you're seeing sides of yourself that you never knew existed. That's what your future self wants you to know. Now, your one challenge, I want to go to this before we close out. Remember, we got this Mithras from you, which says loyalty. I'll hold that up for you. And I'm not familiar with this, so I want to make sure I give it to you real. Let's look that up and see. This would be a challenge for you and something that is leaving. It says, if you want loyalty, be worthy of it. Hold to your agreements. If you make promises to yourself, keep them. You may need to hold yourself in agreement with others, but neglecting yourself. And trust relates to loyalty. This is self-loyalty. I understand it. Think about this then in the context of everything we've seen so far, pile number one, where we said early on, you may have been in situations that you felt imprisoned. So you were not loyal to yourself. You did not make decisions or act and behave in ways that ultimately were what you really wanted, what you really needed, what you felt like you deserved. You felt powerless to do something about it, to change something about it. And you may have even been, I feel like for some of you, there was some self-sacrifice. There was sacrificial, like, I've got to do this so that the kids will be okay, or my job will be okay, or I owe it to this person, my partner, whatever the circumstances were. But there was loyal spirit. Your future self is saying that your loyalty to yourself will never be called into question again. Or always keep in mind your loyalty to yourself first and foremost, because beyond that, it's difficult for you to really reap the rewards of all the generosity, all of the hard work, all of the sacrifice that I feel like a lot of you made, pile number one. That Empress is coming to say, it is time for you to have a payoff, a payday in a big way. And the payday is coming because of this rebirth that you're undergoing. All right. Beautiful. Let me know what you thought about that. Your future self is ready to rock and roll, and there's so much for you, but it literally is a rebirth. It's going to make you feel like I am a whole new person. Can't wait. All right, let's move on now. Pile number two, those of you who were drawn to this big, I'm telling you, you can barely lift this thing. It's so heavy, but this big piece of black tourmaline. Pile number two. Let's go in. You have the Nine of Wands, working hard, some of you, huh? A bonus card of the Tree of Life. Interesting. This is big picture stuff. Your future self is like, we're going for the big picture. Eight of Cups, Eight of Swords, the Protective Mother. All right, so your future self is drowned. The Banshee of Grief. Wow. Okay, pile number two. And no accident that you went to this black tourmaline as well, which is an extremely protective stone. It is a stone that can banish negativity both from around us and within, our own dark thoughts and, bad behaviors, etc. That black tourmaline is no joke. But you were drawn to that clearly for this pile. It always amazes me how spirit, I don't know what's happening here when I'm in prayer and I'm doing the cards. I'm drawn to the stone, I pull the cards, relate, and then doggone if we don't see that connection. And pile number two, that black tourmaline, if you don't already have some, you may be drawn to go and get yourself a piece. We have the Puppeteer, explanations and apologies, and we have repeating patterns. All right. Your future self for pile number two. Wants to bring you to a place of drawing your line in the sand. Okay? Because for many of you, there's a lot of sadness and fear, sadness and or fear. And some of it is what you've come to expect from life. I'm looking at the repeating patterns. And so I think for some of you, it's you've been in circumstances where you've been, again and again and again. Let's use an example. Let's bring it down to earth. And this may not apply to you, but follow me. We're just going to use it as an example. So let's say you've been dating. Maybe you've married a couple of times, divorced a couple of times, but whatever, in your relationships, in your intimate relationships, there was a pattern, okay? And that pattern suddenly becomes a part of your reality, where you've come to expect this to happen. If I date, I already know, this is going to happen, and then that, and then this, and then this. Like, you've already got it all figured out in your head because of repeating patterns. For some of you as well, it could be a job situation or a friendship situation, but it's something where you have been let down so many times. I'm looking at this banshee with the grieving that comes with drowned, literally just over it, just tired of it, just been exposed to a lot that weighed on you. And you've stood up to it. I'm looking at this Nine of Wands. You've stood up to it. And your future self is recognizing that. And also in terms of this reading being about your future self and moving you forward, it's saying push on just a little bit further, a little bit more, because you are almost there. You are almost at the phase of a breakthrough. And your breakthrough is two things. This puppeteer is not accidental. And what this puppeteer is indicating, pile number 2, is either you learned how to start pulling the strings just as a survival mechanism. You could have become, please take this with a grain of salt, I mean it respectfully. You could have become a little manipulative, but it wasn't out of a spirit of meanness. It was out of a spirit of survival. You had to, things became sort of strategic around you and around how you learned how to adapt and deal with others based on these patterns that were coming toward you. So you had to learn how to pull the strings. On the opposite end, it could have been you've been subjected to people who were pulling your strings. And there's enough of that. Your future self, with that 8 of Cups coming, your future self is like, you're out of there. You are out of there. And if you are in this situation still, or some of you are trying to still figure out what can I do about it, because you've started to feel helpless over it. And the protective mother comes to say, that is your future self, is saying, look beyond your circumstances for what can protect you. Again, I think that's why you were drawn to this stone. If you were drawn to this pile number 2, Spirit is saying it's really important for you all in particular to start to develop protective measures around your psychic space, not just your physical space. We lock our doors and check our windows or whatever, just in terms of real life protection. But this is about your psyche. This is about your emotional health. This is about your mental health. This is about your overall well-being. And the protective mother is shielding you. I see some of you almost like in the womb, literally in the womb, where nothing can hurt you, where everything, all potential dangers are somewhere outside. And it's really important for you. I'm feeling, where's my deck? There it is. I'm feeling to pull, like I need to pull a couple of more cards for you in particular, pile number 2, because I'm also looking at this tree of life. There's something your future self is wants to remind you in this reading, that to the extent that it can help you, a lot of what you have dealt with is karmic. It wasn't karmic to punish you, it was karmic to teach you. It was karmic to help you understand the role that you have played, and how to navigate and change your role, going back to that puppeteer, based on how others treat you, and how you have learned or are still learning to declare what is right and what is wrong, and not allow yourself to be influenced by the behaviors of others, so that then it takes you out of your character. There are big life lessons, and also for you all, pile number 2, some of the lessons that you're learning in this lifetime, and some of this grief and sorrow and anguish that you've experienced or been exposed to. I'm also feeling for some of you, it could be that you work in an industry where, if you're in some sort of mental health field or healing industry, where you are exposed to a lot of grief, sadness, anxiety, etc. It's learning how to navigate that. There's a big picture quality to your lives, and it feels like it goes back generations. There's some ancestral stuff. We talk about intergenerational trauma, where some of what happens to us and what we experience in our DNA is connected to our DNA and what has happened intergenerationally. For you all, pile number 2, there is a larger picture at stake. And many of you are learning to first identify the patterns. Going back to your repeating patterns card, you're identifying the patterns, but it's not just so you can say, point to it and say, well, I am this way, or I am sad, or I am overwhelmed. Going back to that 9 of Wands, right? Feeling deluged, feeling like your burdens are heavy and there's so much for you to do. There's so much on you. There's so much riding on you. But Spirit wants to give you, your future self wants to give you a different take on that, as if you saw this as somehow serving a greater purpose, it would allow you to, it would take away some of that angst, and you could begin to put a different filter on it so that you can move forward. Because you're not powerless or helpless. Even when it felt, even in those times when truly there was nothing else, there was no other way for you to feel. And there's the 10 of Wands coming on top of that 9. Yes, the pressure that you felt is coming to an end. It's coming to a head. The overwhelming sadness is coming to an end. And we have the 9 of Swords. Yeah, you've been through it. My heart goes out to you all. Pile number 2, you have been through it. And there's the King of Cups. All right, there's your ticket out. Your emotional healing is your ticket out. And that's why you got that 8 of Cups. I just pulled this King of Cups for you, all right? Your way forward and your future self, pile number 2, is saying a couple of things. Going back to that protective mother. There is something that you need to do around protection, around feeling safe. Not protection in the sense, oh, something bad's going to happen to me, somebody's coming after me. That is not what we're talking about. We're talking about your innate sense of being safe. Your innate sense of feeling supported and feeling cherished and feeling nurtured and feeling covered. That womb keeps coming to me for some of you all. Feeling covered, feeling like there is, you could put something around yourselves, thinking of like a blanket when it's cold, and that blanket just makes you feel safe and snuggled up. Because this King of Cups, there for some of you, this could actually be a person who's coming toward you, who's going to help you go through that healing process. King of Cups is a beautiful energy and card around someone who has mastered their emotions. And remembering too that emotions are tied deeply to fears and anxiety and sadness. It is an emotional state that can tilt us over into that. And this King of Cups with this protective mother is coming for you, pile number 2, to say, now we want to tilt that scale. Your future self wants to tilt that scale for you all into feeling covered, into feeling divinely protected, into being able to just take that deep breath and say, I made it. I made it. I can put this aside and I can begin to feel like spirit has my back. Even if life has shown me at times that things can be scary and out of control, that spirit has my back. All right? That is what your future self wants to tell you. Pile number 2 is these patterns that you've been exposed to. Number 1, we're teaching you a larger lesson, your soul, a larger lesson about life on earth. And a lot of what you have experienced is a result of something intergenerational. It wasn't all on you. If you've been feeling like all of this is just on me, understand there's a greater, bigger picture of what happened. And that doesn't make it tickle. That doesn't make it any less difficult, but it hopefully gives you, your future self is giving you a different lens to see it through. Because if you can do that, you can get some distance from it and some objectivity. That's what 8 of Cups does. 8 of Cups gives you emotional distance. It allows you to walk on from constantly replaying it in your head and feeling like you're still in the middle of it, because that doesn't get you through the other side. And that protective mother gets you through the other side. The King of Cups gets you through the other side. There's some emotional healing, and that's the protectiveness that you need for pile number 2. Do what you have to do. Explore that. Explore emotional healing, emotional intelligence, and rewiring. Alberto Villoldo, Villoldo, Alberto Villoldo does a lot of work around rewiring the brain. Actually, I do have the book. I'm going to show it to you because I have it right here in front of me. Oh, no. I'm sorry. I gave you a different. All right, I'm back. I'm sorry, you all. I gave you the wrong name. What Spirit was leading me to was Joe Dispenza. All right. Some of you may already be familiar with his work, but if not, look into Joe Dispenza, pile number 2. It'd be really helpful for you because it is, he deals a lot about, even this book, I love it. It's Becoming Supernatural, but it has a lot to do with changing the way that we, some of our automatic responses and automatic repeating patterns, some of our ingrained behaviors that can be intergenerational, that can be inherited, and rewiring our emotional state and our thoughts, because that changes the game. All right. I wish you the best. Let me know how that goes for you all. And finally, let's move on now to pile number 3. Those of you who were drawn to the crystal, the quartz crystal cluster. All right, let's see what's up. Pile number 3. Let me get a sip of water. Message from your future self, pile number 3. We have, the 3 of Wands. Things are moving. We have the Empress. You may be pile number 3. You may want to also check out pile number 1, which had the Empress as well. Oh, I got to give you another card. This was like a key card to the deck. Actually, I'll get it if I need it. Spirit is saying keep going. All right, we have the 6 of Cups. Let it all crumble down. Moon blood. Gunkadit. Blessings. Ooh, I'm going to have to look that up. I'm not familiar with that deity. I'm going to have to look that up for you. I love the message. Blessings. An empath. And the twins. Self-protection. All right. Pile number 3. I tell you what, you're powerful. And if you don't see yourself that way, and if you have not typically related to yourself in that way, that is something your future self, that's your part of a big message from your future self is like, you are stepping into your power, and you're gonna get to that place. The twins, I even thank you, Spirit. I feel like this is your higher self, your future self, twinning with you in this moment during this reading, and in your energy as you move forward and take what you need from this reading, to see your higher self, to see your soul, your inner self as your twin. Not just this other version of you, perhaps this eternal version of you that exists, infinitely in infinite time, but in infinity. But to see yourself, like see your higher self right there with you, just twinning with you right there, as a second skin almost, I'm feeling for some of you. Wow. And the empath card that really goes with that twins, it says connect to yourself, cleanse, and hold space. Huh. Let it all crumble down. Man, these are coming together so beautifully. Let it all crumble down. Pile number 3, your future self is preparing you for a time of happiness and playfulness. It's preparing you for a time that you there's a part, some of you are already thinking about it, and you've been thinking about what your next steps are going to be, what really brings you joy. You've been evaluating life. For some of you, you may have started to travel more, reconnect with people more, just get more involved in life, like moving energy. One thing about a quartz crystal, and why you might have been drawn to this, quartz is a great amplifier. It is a crystal that when you put it with other crystals, it boosts the energy. It is an amplifier. And for you all, your future self is operating as an amplifier for you in your regular day-to-day life, as long as you open yourself to it empathically and really become aware of your higher self, your future self, as if it was a second skin. It's the coat of lotion that you put on, or the soap that you cleanse yourself with in the shower, right? I mean, of course, not literally, but that's the energy that I'm getting for you all. It's understanding that for you in particular, if you have not been aware, pile number 3, of just how closely connected you are to your spirit guides, that for everything you speak and say and do, you are not doing it in a vacuum. Our brains can sometimes trick us into thinking, it's just thoughts, it's just me thinking my thoughts, I'm venting, I'm just saying whatever. But there's a cause and effect between you. Every time you do that, your higher self and your spirit team, your angels, your guides absorb it. And it impacts the way in which they can then reflect back to you. And so somewhere in here, we had some blessings. Okay, there it is. I knew I saw it. So I want to look up what this deity is. It says Gunakadate. Gunakadeit. Gunakadeit. I'm going to hold that up for you. All right? And I'm going to look it up because I'm not familiar with it. But the key word there says blessings. And that for sure is what your future self is bringing you. Your spirit team is bringing you, pile number 3. But what they're saying is they want you to recognize the role that you play and the degree to which this is your team. There's 3 energies in particular that are around you. This is you in your 3D body, your earthly body, your higher self, and a third one around an ancestor, a spirit guide, an angel, something to that effect. You'll know how it pings you. But this 3 for you is a group of this is your own private, power team. This is your boardroom, your spiritual boardroom. It is the table that you sit at. Wow, I didn't even see that coming. Okay, what is this number 10? Beautiful. All right, number 10. Gunakadit. And I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. I'm just not familiar with this deity. It says, look deeper. Something that may seem like a curse is actually a blessing. Truth finds a way to be told. You are loved and protected. Wow. Okay, and it says here, there's a lot of history. I don't want to take up all the time with it, but I want to see. A good stone for you, by the way, is labradorite, for those of you who are into crystals. And it says, Okay, it gives a long story around the myth of this creature. But basically what he does is he gives you the duality between I love this. This is the message for you. He gives you the duality between reality and fantasy, truth and fiction. Notice that you got that twins card early on in your reading. All right, that was one of your foundational cards in this spread, pile number 3. The twins card, and then we have this Gunkadit is coming to say, keeping in mind the difference between reality and fantasy, truth and fiction. Your boardroom is saying keep in mind the difference and the interconnection between your earthly existence and your spiritual existence. Your future self is saying we are all one. We are all tied together. And if you have become a little removed from that, or maybe this was just the reading that you needed as a reminder of that, pile number 3, that is your way forward, because there are so many blessings coming for you. You have the Empress and you have the 6 of Cups. Happiness, playfulness, remembrance of the things that bring you joy, remembrance to be playful, to be innocent again, to feel filled with wonder again. And that is all there for you. And you got the moon blood, which is a reference to a woman's menstrual cycle. But I also think what it's saying here is remembering that in regards to the menstrual cycle, very tied to the moon, is a period of building up and letting go, right? There is life-giving qualities around it. It is how a woman conceives based on certain periods of her cycle when there's that fertility. But I think what it's saying is, and it says a subtext here says, my womb heals the world. My womb heals the world. This has nothing to do with male or female or whether you are still menstruating. This has to do with the qualities of being able to give birth to healing and to give birth to yourselves. And those, pile number 3, you are healers. I've got that empath card that we talked about a moment ago, and that let it all crumble down. Your future self is saying, to the extent that you've not given yourself credit for all the magic that you possess, pile number 3, that magic is there, and it is waiting to really be harnessed. It is waiting to really be developed. That is the blessings that kadunkadink. And I'm so sorry. I don't mean disrespect from it. Okay, so do better, Afefe. Gunakadit. Gunakadit. Thank you. Okay, that deity isn't playing. It's like, you're not going to mess up my name. And I have some nerve. Afefe, you have no idea what people do with that name, right? So I have to correct myself and give respect to that. Gunakadit. And I still may not be saying it correctly, but I am earnestly trying. So those blessings of the duality that Gunakadit brings for you all. Remember, truth, fiction, reality, fantasy. Spirit is saying your future self is entering a phase with that Empress where you are giving birth and growing and creating. The Empress is a tremendous creator and comes very closely to that moon and that blood. She is the divine mother. And very often in cards, not in this one, but in many cards that depict the Empress, you will see a woman who is pregnant. There is a creation inside of you, pile number 3, that is waiting to be birthed. And I think it is your magic. I think it is your power. And it is something that takes you back to what you thought was possible when you were younger. It helps you remember the joy of life and the playfulness of life and the potential of life. It puts you into a space of innocence. And your higher self and your future self, your guides, are saying, we want to function with you as a team. We are your twins. We are your divine twins. We are your soulmate. We are that second skin. We are as close to you as a blink of an eye. And if you have felt disconnected, if you have felt maybe for some of you, you've just been a little busy. You've gotten a little caught up in the day-to-day of the world. And what your team is saying, your future self is saying is, it's time to get back to a greater understanding of just how much The unseen world impacts the seen world. And there is something around your thoughts and your expression. Let it all crumble down is understanding the extent to which, with the empath, is understanding the extent to which you are supposed to take on what is around you as a healer. You're clearly a healer. My womb heals the world. Your womb generates and creates the world. There is something that you've been thinking about creating, pile number 3, that you're, and excuse me, there's something you've been thinking about creating or doing, changing jobs, some sort of shift, but it involves creating, it involves abundance, it involves increasing your reach. And if there's a part of you that has felt a little overwhelmed by that, like, okay, I know I can do it, I know I should be able to do it, but at the end of the day, it's just me. It's just me. Like, how do I make all this work? And your future self, your spirit team has come to say, but it is not just you. We're here for you as well. And part of your ability to get the factual, information and guidance, and like, okay, here's exactly what I need to do. Here's who I need to call. Here's the place I need to go. Like, for you to be able to do that, you got to get more in sync with them. And it'll come to you. It'll come to you in a song. You'll have a conversation with somebody. You'll wake up. You'll see it in a dream. Or you'll wake up and you'll get that inspiration. That is how spirit comes to us. We all want, I want to scroll. Like, just let me walk down the street and look down and there's a scroll. And I pick it up and I can read the instructions. I can follow the instructions. It doesn't work like that. It really is. But if we connect, twinning, if you connect, if you reconnect, if you take time to embrace your connection with your spirit team, your boardroom, that is your boardroom, powerful, 3 of Wands, working together to make moves that are benefiting you, so that these new creations, this new phase of life, this next step that your future self is like, yes, let's do it. You don't feel you don't slow yourself down because you feel like on some level it's all on you. It is not. You have an extremely powerful spiritual team that's ready to help you. And the more you connect with them, the more you acknowledge their presence, the more you acknowledge you have a divine twin that is your higher self, your future self, then the more it allows those messages to come through for you, either through someone, something, a book, a video. They'll get you the message the right way, and you'll see it, and you'll know then what the actions that you need to take. You'll be crystal clear on it, as clear as this crystal quartz. All right. I hope that was helpful to you all. I wish you a wonderful week ahead. I wish you all the blessings that have come through in these messages from your future self. Please leave me your thoughts and check back with me on Thursday. We're going to do Think Tank Thursdays. I'm mixing it up a little bit, as you all who've been with me know. I am doing a little more politics because I'm a journalist at heart. I always will be, even though I don't work for the newspapers anymore. But that's a part of me. I enjoy doing that work as well. So we'll do some of that later in the week. Have a good one. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.